You don't find your purpose yourself. It has already been given to you. You identify as well as accept your purpose. Notice the two key words in that description: identify as well as accept, which was deliberate, by the way. Identify and accept are the opener to tonight's discourse. It's very difficult for us to identify as well as accept our purpose. For instance, when I discovered I was going to be a CEO businessman, the consecration demands for that kind of destiny is 90% study, 10% execution. I struggled for a while to submit myself to the disciplines that materializes that destiny. It didn't make sense to me. How does studying how the markets work, understanding various policies, how to scale a business, spending all your time consuming content, pouring through different books, and there were times where you would read a 300-page book and only derive 10 sentences. So hours and hours of time were being dissipated in this activity. Now, from an external standpoint, if you are passing by and look at a young man pouring his heart out to study, the conclusion would be he's either studying for an exam or there's some kind of profiting research. But from an external standpoint, if you analyze it logically, it doesn't make sense. And the average individual would struggle to engage in that kind of activity because of what other people think, especially when it's not alone. Why are you spending your time doing XYZ? You could be doing something better, especially when there's no parallel between the activity and your financial profiting. There's no guarantee that after spending hours of your time consuming content, drafting the business plan, not having access to capital, even worse, you are in Africa, in a country where there's no premier establishment, there's no Starbucks or McDonald's where you can work for $7 an hour, building your business based on that finance. In fact, let's do the math. $7. $7. Let's say you work 10 hours daily. $7 multiplied by 10, that's $70. $70 multiplied by 30, $210. So $210 in my currency is 250K. Even individuals with certificates earn less than that. So you see where the problem is from. Let's make a little bit of allusion to the initial definition I gave. I said identify as well as accept. Majority of you have identified, every single one of you know exactly what your purpose is, but you find it difficult, you struggle to accept because the disciplines, the consecrations that makes for fruition make zero sense logically. Acceptance, as you know it, is truly believing that that activity will lead to profit. I've said this countless times. Businesses are incepted for three reasons. First, out of vision. Second, passion. Third, hunger. Most businesses are born out of the third principle, which is hunger. Hunger meaning lack of finances or ability to prove someone wrong or devoid of certain kind of characteristics. Then you want to show off. You want to build something in order to prove wrong or realize results. and profit financially, which is way beyond the discourse of tonight's teaching. Excuse me. But it's very difficult to identify as well as accept your purpose. Most of you are barbers. Most of you are teaching people. Most of you are chefs. And the deception that comes with talent is this idea that it's common sense for everybody. Everyone should be able to prepare a tasty meal. You say everyone should be able to prepare meal for thousands of people. Everyone should be able to do this. This is common sense. But the reality, it isn't. It isn't common sense. And when you have this flawed idea that your field of endeavor is somehow oversaturated, there is no space of you, it further diminishes the drive of pursuit. Also, when I say identify and accept, it becomes very difficult because you do not see the effort in achieving that activity. Therefore, you gravitate towards activity you enjoy less because you have to impose discipline on yourself, making it feel worthy of your time and giving a semblance of hard work. And when you feel worthy, or when you do not feel worthy in erring in the opposite direction, you cannot achieve success. You cannot achieve success. It further reaffirms the philosophy that this is not what you're supposed to be doing. How does cooking food, how does barbing hair somehow transform your life, especially financially? It's not common sense at all. Identifying and accepting your purpose. This is one of the most difficult activity in time. As difficult as this activity, it is underspoken, especially in the personal development space. I would concede that 90% of individuals know exactly what they should be doing, yet they don't do it. Why is this the case? The lack of guarantee. This idea, would it happen? Would it not happen? How am I sure that going through this path is somehow the best for me? Like the analogy I previously gave. Ever heard this quote? When you find what you love doing, you wouldn't have to work a single day. I completely agree. But the problem becomes when you do find what you want to do, or when you do find what you love doing, it becomes very difficult to do because you don't consider it as work. And everything at the infancy doesn't profit is the amalgamated efforts of consistent action that leads to success. It would be foolish for a marathon or for an individual, an athlete preparing for a marathon to achieve the lap in the first, second, third day of training. It doesn't work that way. When you have a dream, when you have a purpose, when you have something that you would like to do, you are in constant comparison. The grass is always greener at the other side. If my passion was to shoot hoops in a basketball court, yet it will be clearer. I know I'm trying to become a basketballer, and all I have to do is to train hard. Pose with my situation as a chef, it's ambiguous because there are so many recipes, there are so many variables associated with my level of success. So you bemoan your own purpose, you bemoan your own talent. I've stated countless times, familiarity breeds contempt. That which may seem bizarre becomes quite commonplace once our eyes have been given time to acclimatize. The first person who saw a camel fled. The second, veered within distance. The third, dared sleep a house around his head. So your talent has become familiar, therefore you despise it. You wish you had something else. Yes, that talent is enough to liberate you financially. All you need to do is to accept. Every single one of you, skip the identification part, because every single one of you have identified your purpose. All you need to do is to accept your purpose and you'll be fine. Coming from a family with little to no entrepreneurs, little to no knowledge about the stock market, and having to achieve all of those information on my own. Learning about the stock market, although with the consciousness there is no access to capital, and still persisting in that effort, while every single person, every single individual is ridiculing you, ridiculing your efforts. That knowledge would then translate into my profiting in the stock market. How the capital came is a different discourse in and of itself, but the primary goal should be attaining that skill, and everything will take care of itself. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. See you in the next one.